We interrupt this program to bring you pop culture deep dives and media analysis from a couple of creative academics. I am your human development and family science scholar, Ebony Williams.
And I am your film and television scholar, Vern Cooper. Welcome to the show.
I have been on one this season. Everything I have called has happened. Everything I've said has happened. So, first of all, thoughts on the episode? Absolutely loved it. I think it's my new Bill and Frank.
Was it difficult though? Because I found it kind of emotionally challenging personally. Not only seeing Joel and knowing that we're about to watch their relationship deteriorate, but also the moral ambiguity of what we're learning about Joel and how Ellie's experiencing
Yeah. I realize that I have a loyalty. And look, my loyalty is to Joel Miller and to Pedro. When Ellie, we ain't there yet, but Ellie crossed some boundaries with me this episode.
it.
She
Okay.
crossed some boundaries.
Well, she set
Um,
some too.
well, yeah, she set some boundaries. So, first of all, starting from the beginning, I really loved how we got background about Joel and Tommy and their father.
Yeah.
And also this passing down of information and something that his father told him. He didn't get a chance to pass it down to Sarah, but he passed it down to Ellie.
Mm.
I hope when you have one, you will do better.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the watch. We see what the watch means to him. That was the same watch, right?
I
You
think
get the
so.
impression.
They
Okay.
certainly lingered on it. The camera framed
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
so
We see Joel was taking care of Tommy from the very beginning. That's who he was. Also, it reminded me of something that we've talked about in my special topics class. And we talked about generational trauma and this idea about how generational trauma just perpetuates itself until finally somebody is like, no, I'm gonna stop this. So like just hearing from Joel's father, and was his father's name Joel?
Javier.
Oh, Javier. Okay.
Yeah. I only know that
Yeah.
because I looked it up because I also saw the J on his uniform. I also was really grabbed by that overt reference to generational trauma, inherited um, baggage and traumas and things, because ultimately, I mean, we are at least, roughly half of our environment, and our childhoods. If we grow up with our biological family and our parents, that's our environment. And so our learning is those folks. And to have that stated so explicitly, I felt kind of like I knew that's what we were doing. And so I kind of felt like a little vindicated in having read that in the show.
Yeah, yeah. Also thinking about the watch, knowing the watch came from his father, and now we also know Ellie has it
Hmm.
now. That's also pretty powerful just in terms of what Joel has gifted or have um what Ellie has inherited from Joel.
Seeing that opening sequence of them as children, and Joel is like taking a stand against his father about the violence, and he has kind of a gotcha moment because Javier says he tells the story of when his own father nearly killed him, abused him so
Mhm.
badly that he said he had to have his jaw wired shut, and he offers this rationale of like, at least I don't do as bad to you as my dad did to me, and Joel's rebuttal is, why do you do it at all if you know what it feels like? And that is a moment that shifts Javier's approach, and he hands him a beer and he sits down and he has this a different kind of conversation with Joel. And I think because we're being shown this specific scene, this is the first time something like this has happened in their relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and that's a really good point because we know that the abuse has happened. We know that this is something that they're afraid of. It's happened before. I think that's a really great point that this is the first time they kind of had this, that there's been a shift in how Javier communicates with Joel.
And I didn't recognize that actor, but he does an incredible job with a very small part. And the way he performs this kind of breakthrough of realizing that he thought he may have been doing better, but better is still not good enough if it comes to violence and abuse. And that's when he says that line, I hope when it's your turn, you do a little better than me, which is, I think a lot of people can vibe with that. Folks who have parented, whether it be your own children or a younger sibling, at some point, most of us have parented someone. The next scene, though, after that one, we dissolve to Ellie's 16th birthday.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 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 yes.
The first thing is Joel getting the bartering with Seth.
Yes.
And we
Okay, let me tell you what I figured out. Joel has been to a beauty supply store.
because he's the
When
one.
right. When he pulled out those Legos,
Hmm.
I said, yep, he's the one.
That's a
He
good
is the
point.
one finding them wigs.
Yes, yeah, and that's the
Yes.
thing too is like he's discreet.
Yeah.
He did this for his job for a long time in the QZ. He's not going
Mm-hmm.
to judge you for what you ask him to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's been the beauty supply man.
I was like, yep, it's Joel. Joel's going to get the braid hair.
Yeah. So after he barters with Seth for these things, he gets a bone, and Seth is going to make a cake. He doesn't say that, but we can assume that's what it is.
Vanilla or chocolate. Vanilla's easier. Say vanilla.
I think this is the first birthday that Ellie and Joel spend together.
He refinished the guitar.
It's calling back twice now, actually. It's calling back to him saying he would teach her to play guitar, and then the fact that he did, which we know from the future, the present.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hears Tommy kind of yell from downstairs, and he's
Mm-hmm.
concerned. We're concerned. And he looks out to see Tommy, like, helping a very inebriated Ellie up the stairs. What did you think had happened?
Didn't know. I thought maybe she had been bitten, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't sure. What did you think
I thought
happened?
that she had been out getting into trouble.
Oh, okay.
Because that's my damage. I was like, oh no, she's already like, but then Tommy says that she burned herself, and she says that she did it on purpose. This first birthday is the one where he just gives her the guitar and the happy birthday Eli cake. And she's such a kid too. Like he's like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna taste any good, and he turns around and she's got her hand down in it. Because in that moment, I thought, like, has she seen a birthday cake before?
Probably not.
Probably not one with her name on it or something like her name
Yeah.
on it. This episode, the chronology and the structure is just it goes year by year. We spend a little time with them on her 15th, 16th, 17th, and then we skip to 19th birthday. So the very next scene is her 16th birthday, and he has gone to the nines, turned it out.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know how he knew that she was that into. Had she talked about it in the first season, astronauts and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. One of my favorite scenes when she's up on a rock and he says, "Get down." And she's talked about reading everything about the astronauts, and Sally Ride is her favorite.
That's
Yeah.
right. The first time, because that was when she was on watch and he fell asleep and she was supposed to wake him up and she didn't. That's so he's found a museum very nearby Jackson Hole
Mhm.
that has a whole space exhibit. And it has an original Apollo 11 capsule. Or, well,
I think that was Apollo 15.
okay, yeah, because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It can't be 11.
Why can't it be 11?
That would just be like a little too much, you know? Because that's the one that actually, that just like the Apollo 11 capsule happens to be right next to Jackson Hole. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody would believe that.
Yeah, no, it was Apollo 15. But and another thing that made me just think about how skilled Joel is at finding things,
Oh, yeah.
that he was able to find that recording. Like that man, he just put his mind to something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the first thought I had was like, where in the fuck did you get that? Another interest of Ellie's is dinosaurs, and he happened to find a statue, I guess, of I think it was a T-Rex, but I'm not sure. I don't know my dinosaurs
I
real
think
well.
it was a T-Rex. Not that I'm the dinosaur scholar, but
It looked fairly iconic, I guess, and the first thing she does is climb all the way to the top of it, which is so Ellie. But while she's up there, she sees the museum. Maybe he knew she would climb up there and see the museum.
Like he knows her like she's his child,
Yeah.
you know. So they go into the museum. I had a little bit of concern because the last time we were in a museum with them,
Yep.
we know what happened. But a part of me was like, well, Joel knows what he's doing. He's been through this place.
It felt safe. Like the danger never goes anywhere, but like you say, there's a couple of things ensuring a level of safety for the feeling of this excursion, one of which is Joel, and the other is this hindsight.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah,
past,
that's true
so
too.
but it was
Yeah.
still there, even though they were not really trying to create it. In a way, they kind of went out of their way to diminish that sense of like danger, but it still
Mhm.
managed to creep in a little.
Yeah.
And they're walking down this hallway of stars,
Hmm.
and Bella Ramsey is playing 5 years younger,
Yes.
and
So
they
I wanted to
turned
mention
it.
that.
I was like, "This
When
is a
I
child."
tell you, yes, yes,
I was.
that was one of the things I wanted to mention. Bella Ramsey, fantastic,
Mhm,
fantastic. I was like, it really feels like Ellie is 14.
mhm,
The way by their affect, is that what it is?
mhm.
The way they just portrayed all of these differences in ages, like just phenomenal.
Yeah, because the facial affect when they're walking specifically through that hallway with all the stars, like the
Hmm.
wonder and awe on their face.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I was seated. I was so ready for the rest of this episode because
Yeah.
it's gonna be just showboating actors
Right.
who know. By this point, these two actors have these characters dialed so deep the fuck
Mhm.
down. And we're just watching these two mastered actors play and play with our feelings. It felt really like a gift of them to just give us this, to
Mhm.
let these
Mhm.
two have this final time together.
It was so beautiful. It's such a beautiful episode.
I I was really enjoying watching Joel have what could we could reasonably assume was the best day of his life since Sarah died. Because the time between when Sarah died and he kills all the fireflies, there were not a lot of good days. And so this has got to be a highlight. Being able to provide an experience like this for somebody that you care
Yeah.
that much about.
Yeah. And also have like a normal life. Right?
Yeah.
Normal, big air quotes. And I think that that's the piece of this that I enjoy. Some of the things that we talked about in the past when we've talked about the show is things that we wanted to see. We wanted to see what their day to day looked like. We wanted to see how their relationship was. And I think that this episode gave us a glimpse into that. And I think the birthdays was a very interesting choice, right?
Because that's what Sarah died on, was Joel's birthday.
Oh, yes.
So that's his last memory with his first daughter, right? His blood daughter,
Yeah, yeah.
is him
Mm,
failing basically at
mm-hmm.
celebrating his own birthday.
Yeah.
Something comes in and breaks the spell a little bit after this. On the way back, Ellie turns to look at something and the camera doesn't show us immediately, but it is something that shifts her mood and it shifts her perspective, and it's clearly triggered something that she's been chewing on. And when it turned, I gasped because it was
Yeah.
so smart.
It's so smart. It for me goes back to the first season. That conversation with the couple. Are there any fireflies here? Yeah, we get those in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not those type of fireflies. So
Right.
yeah.
So she
No, it was so subtle. It was so subtle, but beautifully done. So much about this episode. Subtle, but beautifully done.
Yeah, it took like a half second for it to compute. She looks into a little marshy area and there's a cloud of hovering fireflies. Like we call them lightning bugs. Do y'all call them that down there?
Lightning bugs,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, lightning bugs, but fireflies, like
Hmm.
the bug kind. And I was like, okay, she's looking at fireflies, and I was like, oh, she's thinking about it. And we also get an answer to something that you and I talked about, which is whether she suspected or not, because
Hmm.
she
Hmm.
did.
Yeah, she did. And I think they do a good job of showing it. This is something that she's carried with her throughout this time. Because when we see the next birthday, was it 17?
17's the turning point for them.
Yeah. So 17 is when, is it 17?
Yeah. So 16 was the lunar module, and then she has the realization on the way back. 17 is making out with Kat, smoking weed, and getting a tattoo.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So he
Okay.
comes in and he's all excited because he thinks it's going to be like last year, and he is crestfallen. He hears sounds of them, necking in there, and he opens the door, and it is just your worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doobie in the ashtray, your daughter and another girl, kind of half naked, and so he comes in, and I don't remember what all he says. He's just like, "What the fuck is this? What is this?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Get out, get out, get out."
Yeah. All the teenage stuff at one time.
Yeah, and
Like all of it.
and she was like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "I'm here to celebrate your 17th birthday." He turns to Kat. This was fascinating to me because it's something else me and you have talked about. Because Joel's thinking 17 is not an adult because she's not 18 yet. But Kat's thinking that's only a 2-year difference because Kat and Ellie haven't grown up in a world where there are statutory laws.
Uh-huh.
And so that's a difference there. Like he, as a parent, perceives this is inappropriate because she's too young.
Hmm.
And Kat and Ellie don't know that because for all we know, they never got around to explaining that to them.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I wonder, you know, if that's something the council would even have made a decision on, you know?
I think of the council in Jackson Hole as addressing problems as they arise because there's also the discussion of Ellie's like, I'm 19, I'm an adult, you can't tell me what to do. Well, there's some process that decided that,
Hmm.
and I remember us going like, what was that process? But
Yeah.
then in this episode, in when she's like, Jesse got to go out on patrol when he was 16. No, he got to start training for patrol when he was 16. And so the adulthood is kind of measured in rites of passage along the lines of civic duty, but it doesn't appear to be like standardized or official or anything like that. You just look to what the others are doing and then decide if it works for you or not. Joel did like he's like, "Are you and Jesse a thing? Do you like Jesse?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh no."
I know. I know.
She gave him enough to go on. He just didn't see it. And that to me was
No.
like, that's parents right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Oh, parents.
Because then
Yeah.
when he catches her with Kat, he says, "You're experimenting with girls." And the way he said it gave me flashbacks to being caught. Because that was a really bad feeling, like being caught, knowing that your parents were probably not going to accept it or not gonna, they were going to make you feel bad about it, and you already felt a little bad about it. That was kind of the first moment where I had a complicated reaction to a way that Joel treated Ellie.
Yeah. 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 No, I had a very complicated reaction to that as well. You know, we know that Joel is not perfect, but this loyalty that I have to him, but also I think it's fair to call out when he could have handled something differently. And this was a situation that I wish he would have handled differently.
I'm sure he
I
does too.
think, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean, isn't it the thing though?
Hmm.
Not just being a parent, but being a friend, being a person, like, that's how we learn,
Right. And that's also
right?
how we repair, how we begin to patch up those learning cycles, those like inherited traumas and knowledges that we perpetuate is identifying when it creeps into something, a relationship we currently have, and either stopping and recognizing it or going back for it later. But I don't think that we have to compromise our affinity with Joel, like you
Mhm.
said, to recognize when something could have gone better. Because ultimately, what we're dealing with here is a parent who has fucked up in the way that almost any parent would have.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was funny to me because it was like I tried to run away a few times. I would get in my feelings about how unfair it was at my house, and I would pack up my things or something, depending on which age it was this was happening, very dramatically storm out or something. And so that's kind of what it reminded me of Ellie trying to move to the garage in the middle of the night without Joel noticing. she,
Right. Like you
she
gonna
knew
move
he
that
would.
bed,
Yeah, she knew he would
move
notice.
that
She was
mattress
acting
by
out.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It surprised me how quickly or maybe how easily he gave her what she wanted.
I don't think it surprised me because I think he understood. Like him being up to me made it feel like to me that he regretted the interaction from earlier.
Mhm.
And feeling like some space was something that he could have given to her. It felt like to me like maybe he understood that giving her space will still allow her some autonomy, but she's still here.
Yeah,
She's still with me. She's still safe, you know?
she's not moving to another town or
No.
something. Yeah. And I think, I mean, he had plenty to process after that. There's just the regular developmental things. There's the things that he considers to be stuff that needs to be addressed and needs to not happen anymore, like maybe the drug use. And then also when he says you're experimenting with girls, she says it's not a fucking experiment. And that kind of stopped him. And so I think he heard her instantly.
Uh-huh.
But this is really the beginning of a long downturn for them. She moves in the next line. Then we don't we skip 2 years after that?
Skip 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so this is when they go out on the she goes out on her first patrol. But there's a really key scene though, because this opens with her sitting alone in her garage practicing, raising questions about what happened with the Fireflies in Salt Lake City.
Mhm.
And she's asking the questions. The questions she's asking are so specific, it's like she knows. She's figured it out.
Right? I thought about this. Like the things that she says allow us to know that she's like really been processing over the years.
It's been
Like,
gnawing at her.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that was that central what would you call it, a complication of that the decision he made. And we knew that, when we reviewed the first season, that's what we were talking about. Like he's gonna pay for this.
Also, I think this is another place where we can see her growth and her learning, like just about context. Just the way she thought through things is very different than a 14-year-old. Like
Mm.
understanding like the mechanics of a situation.
It's tactical thinking.
Right. Like you could tell me this at 14 and I can believe you. But now that I have a little bit of life under my belt, now that I'm 19 and I've lived through different situations and I've seen different things, what you told me isn't adding up.
Yeah. Joel surprises her in the middle of this to offer to take her on her first patrol as a birthday present, I guess. This was her birthday present. And it is not, it's awkward. They're not having fun together. They get the radio distress thing. And that's when I realized, like, okay, we're going to see what happened to Eugene. First of all, Joe Pantoliano randomly guesting as this character on The Last of Us. I felt like the biggest nerd because I texted my friends and nobody knew who the fuck he was. I'm like, you didn't watch enough schlocky action films in the 80s and 90s to know that this is so cool.
Like what?
Did you ever see the Harrison Ford remake of The Fugitive?
Yes.
He played Tommy Lee Jones's sidekick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. 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 Yes.
And he was in
Okay.
the sequel with what's that, Wesley Snipes?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he also played the sort of derpy but mildly dangerous gangster boyfriend in the Wachowskis' first film, which is a lesbian noir gangster heist film called Bound. And it's my favorite movie they ever made. And so he's a favorite character actor of movie buffs. That was kind of a thrill to be expecting to hear about Eugene and see this character come up, and then all of a sudden Joe Pantoliano's on my screen.
What do you think about Joel's decision?
Oh my God. I think he was wrong. I think he did make a mistake. I have a theory for why, though. Did you expect the Eugene thing, to be so tied up with Ellie and Joel's relationship split.
No,
I was
I
surprised
didn't.
by that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It was beautifully complicated.
Mhm.
So, what were your feelings around his decision?
I think that what we're seeing in Joel is progression as a person whose sharpest tool is violence. We're seeing that slightly escalate, and that is maybe what happened to his father, because that's what his father said. He was like, maybe I get carried away sometimes. And Joel, we've seen him get carried away multiple times. I think that he has just shortened the distance between problem that needs solved and solving it with violence. I think that he thinks right past, or maybe even doesn't value other kinds of solutions. For him, what he saw Eugene, what he saw him as a threat.
I mean, and he was going to be a threat. Like, he was going to have to shoot him eventually.
Yeah,
It was cruel to not allow him to see Gail, especially when that's what he asked for.
it wasn't only cruel to Eugene; it was cruel to Ellie.
It was cruel to Ellie. But it was a lot of cruelty to go around
It
because
was.
I felt like it was cruel of Ellie to say in that moment his wife is grieving that
She.
that's not what happened.
It was so, and exactly that's that cycle, because Ellie did that
Yeah,
to hurt Joel, but she
yeah,
hurt Gail because there's
yeah.
always collateral damage.
And it's always collateral damage.
Joel is learning in that moment while Ellie is doing this to him that she learned that from him. She learned it from watching him. He was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I have modeled for you is
Yeah,
violence first."
violence
So
first.
I think that he was wrong to do it, but again, like so many of his decisions, it's what he was most likely to do.
Yeah, I was so conflicted. There were parts of me that was like, oh no, he's gonna do it. And then I was like, no, he's definitely not gonna do it. No, I was so conflicted until I realized, okay, he wouldn't have just walked into this place. Yeah, he's gonna do it.
And again, like, taking steps along the path, he could have turned around several times until he reached the place where he couldn't turn around anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you get there, that's the end.
He bold-faced lied to Ellie. And at no point he didn't think about the consequences. Or maybe he did, and the consequence of getting this thing done now, sparing any other further danger, was more important to him. Oh my goodness, that's so morally gray.
I know. Well, and also Ellie is the most mature child he's ever had. Sarah never reached a point where she required this level of nuance to parent. He lost her before that point. I think that Joel was actually plucked when Ellie started telling the truth. And she wasn't
Yeah,
talking to Gail, she was talking at him. And he was like
yeah,
shook because he forgot that she was a grown person.
yeah, yeah. These people are playing with my emotions.
It
Like,
hurts so much.
it hurts so much. It hurts so
And
much. And
again,
when
the
he
performances.
was like, oh, the performances, when he was like, I can see Gail, I was looking like I wanted to see Gail too. Like,
Yeah.
I was trying to see her too. The performances in this episode, Tommy in this scene doesn't say a word.
No
Does he
speak.
say a
Yeah,
word?
no words at all.
But when I tell you the emotion was conveyed,
Yeah.
and the disappoint, you can see the disappointment in Joel on his face.
Because Ellie doesn't care that she just hurt Gail.
Yeah,
And the kind of hurt
yeah.
that is permanent.
You can't come back from that.
No. But Ellie doesn't care. She doesn't care about Gail because what she has learned is collateral damage isn't important. When she says to Joel, "You swore," she's not talking about Eugene anymore.
Yeah.
She's talking about when he swore to her that he was telling the truth about the Fireflies and the Raiders and stuff like that. I wonder, like, did you read that as he understood what she was talking about? Or do you think that he was surprised to find out that she was thinking about Fireflies?
I think he was surprised. I think for him, it's over and done.
Hmm.
You
That
know?
problem solved. It didn't matter anymore. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did sort of seem taken aback when that was what she started talking about. So we cut again, we go forward from this point to New Year's Eve. get Joel's perspective on something that we saw from Ellie's perspective before, which is he's still thinking about get Ellie and Jesse. So we know that Ellie and Jesse are over there talking about Dina, but what
Mhm.
does Joel see when he looks at them?
I don't know.
I think he was still holding out hope that Ellie and Jesse were flirting with each other.
I don't know. I would hope by now that he knows Ellie well enough to know. Like, even thinking about the relationship between Ellie and Dina, like, having seen them together enough to know there's feelings there, at least on Ellie's perspective, because it seems like Ellie had feelings for a while.
I wish
So,
we had seen more of them together, but
yeah,
I
I
know that
think it
that's
would have
not
been
what
nice.
we were there to do. And we're going to have more time with Ellie and Dina in the present. We cut to a scene where Maria is apologizing to Joel for,
Yeah,
she's sort of apologizing for pointing out that he is a refugee. And he was like, you were not wrong.
she was apologizing for the attitude she had in season 1. Like this, when she looked at him and, just this idea that he might have been bringing trouble with him. And okay, so we have seen him make some bad decisions. Right.
How dare you?
Right,
Not mine,
right.
Joel.
Also, the decision that he made about Eugene was ultimately for the community. Um, so I think you could just see how much he's loved there. I think for me, that scene with Maria really conveyed his place within Jackson Hole.
And he's family
Yeah,
to
he's
her.
family. He's family.
And so, like, other than Tommy, he hasn't had someone affirm him as family
Hmm.
since Tess, really.
Yeah. So let me bring in another thing about the whole Eugene situation. When he said he wanted to see her face. And I thought about the fact that Ellie was there when Joel died and he got to see her face when he died.
Mm.
Ultimately, thinking about that's something that he took away from
Yeah, that's
Eugene.
a privilege that he didn't
Yeah, yeah.
wow. Bella Ramsey's performance of coming back and finding that Joel has murdered Eugene and their posture. And first of all, acting, I couldn't do it. Acting on a horse, they're riding a damn horse and manifesting the most like rageful bodily repulsion of this person that they had come to love as a parent figure. That is like top tier.
Top tier. Like the acting is just incredible. So, okay, so we're going back to the scene where we get to see what happened that night. And Ellie does come back.
Yeah.
And when I tell you the decisions that Pedro Pascal made, this scene, it was just so good. Like I wish I could have seen how I was looking at the screen. I'm like,
I was
am
like
I
leaning.
breathing? Like what's going right?
This is like the hardest I've cried watching something since I watched The Wild Robot. Have you seen that movie? Oh God, you're not ready. You got to watch
I'm
it.
not ready.
You got to
No, no,
watch it.
no. I'm
I
not
watch that movie
ready.
when I need to cry. Lupita Nyong'o, first of all, does her voice acting. Like I knew she was an incredible actress, but she's an amazing voice actress. And Pedro Pascal plays her little buddy, the fox friend in The Wild
Mm.
Robot. It's so good. You got to watch it. We can cover it. It'll be great. Um, but anyway, yeah, I was just weeping with my eyes glued to the TV, sitting forward with my face in my hands, exactly pitch perfect.
It was perfect. It was so perfect. The body language, the affect, right? The affect, the facial affect. I have no words. I have no words.
And it was such a long scene,
It was
and
long.
you get the impression that you wouldn't do too many takes on that. So whatever they filmed both cameras at the same time. So these were not cuts. So the scene was shot all at once. It may have been more than one take. Probably not, though, because the continuity was pretty strong. So they just played this whole long emotional arc all at once in that one spot on that porch. This really felt like a father and a daughter hashing something out. One of you has done something that is ruinous for the relationship, and you can't take that back. This isn't made explicit, but I thought that this was some insight on why she was obsessed with moths. She asked him, could they have made a cure? And he said yes, but it would have killed you. And she said, then I was supposed to die. My life would have meant something. So I think she feels like, does she feel like she's not worth anything unless she dies for the greater good?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to put myself in the position of someone with that much potential who doesn't get to fulfill it.
Yeah.
What would it feel like to be doing anything else? What would your daily life feel like? And she won't get the chance again.
Here's the thing, right? So Ellie would have sacrificed her life for people who didn't care. So then let's go back and talk about something that we've talked about throughout this. Like, Seth uses a slur. And then we also know that people have been what is it, review bombing all around the character's sexuality. Ellie, in all of her identities, would have given her life for people who wouldn't have cared about her as a person. I think that's the thing about sacrifice, right?
Right.
Like, we do something for the greater good, but would a greater good do that for us?
Almost certainly not. Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. It would have killed Joel if she would have died.
Yeah, she isn't thinking about that. That's a good point.
Is it worth it to save one person or to save the greater good?
The classic, I mean, there's a Star Trek movie about that. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. I know that I almost certainly would have done exactly what Joel did if I had been capable in that circumstance. And I like that he said that. He said, if I had to go back and do it again,
Yes.
I would do it the same.
Yeah.
She says,
The
she
hard
calls,
days.
what'd you say?
I said like the hard days. And I think we get to see all of that just within these 4 birthdays. We got to see the really great days and we got to see the difficult days.
Yeah.
And even with the good and the bad, he would have did it all the same.
The greatest priority for him is that she's alive. She calls that selfish, and he replies that it is because he loves her. I've always thought that love is a little selfish. Like, I think that they're both right. Him making the decision for her is selfish, but it's the only thing he can do because it's his job to love her and to protect her. A lot of us get to that place with our parents. You eventually reach an impasse where you're both kind of right.
I also love that they had this moment before he died.
Yeah, I was so relieved.
Yes.
Knowing,
Yes.
just thinking that her walking past him and not speaking after the
Mm.
fight was the last time they'd seen each other. That was one of the best things about this episode. First of all, just to get this incredible scene. Also, just to know that they had a different final experience than the one that we
Yeah.
originally saw.
So I wanted to go back to something. In the beginning of the episode, like he talks about patience. And I think they rewarded us. Craig Mazin rewarded us
Oh, man, you're
because
right.
we had so many questions from the beginning of the season.
See, episode 7, we get some answers.
Right. And we get the answers. And it was worth it, right? It was worth it. If y'all just are patient and listen to the story I'm telling you, it felt deserved.
Yeah, and this, we talked about this before, like, don't skip to the end.
No, no,
Invest,
no.
because the return on your investment, this is what good storytelling can give you.
Yes. Yes.
And I think the folks who are not enjoying the show because it's not a carbon copy of the video game, you could get something awesome out of this too if you wanted to, if you were
Yeah.
simply willing to invest in another new version of the thing. At the very end of this conversation, Ellie says, I don't think I can forgive you for this. And my heart broke, just like his heart broke, because he thought
Yeah.
that was going to be the last thing she said.
Hmm.
But she says, I'm willing to try.
Why do you think she added that piece?
I think she loves him too.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a lot of work.
I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
So I want to go back to something. What did Joel have to do to get the coffee? I want to know.
I have Because my thought was like, did we see this in another scene and I'm forgetting it? Because I want to know so bad.
I want to know. Question for Craig Mason:
Yeah.
What did Joe? What did Joe have to trade
Everybody
for the
tag
coffee?
tag Craig Mazin in the comments. We need to know.
We need to know. We need to know. And maybe it's in a video game what he traded. I don't know.
Maybe. I did get some spoilers from watching my friends play the video games, and I'm just like,
I got some spoilers because people have started posting on TikTok. I reside on TikTok.
yeah.
Um, People started posting on TikTok as they're playing the game, and you just get these scenes, and I'm watching, and then before it's too late, I realize what I'm watching. You know.
Yeah, and the video game is so lifelike. After this resolution, I think we go back to the present. Is Ellie going back to the theater
Uh, Ellie is going to what's her name?
to Abby?
That's yes, that's the impression I got.
Because I read a synopsis and one person said um or it said that she's going back to the theater where Dina and Jesse were.
I thought she was.
I also saw her as hunting.
That's what I thought.
I guess let's consider both options, right? If she goes back to the theater where Dina is shot in the leg and Jesse and presumably Tommy are, she's gonna have to face them. Do you think she tells them what she did?
Yeah.
She's gonna tell them like, oh, I found Nora and I beat her with it.
Yeah, I don't think it wouldn't make sense for her to go back. She's already out here. She's too far ahead, too far gone. It wouldn't make sense for her to double back when she's already in the middle, you know?
The only thing I can think of why she might go back to the theater is because she didn't get the information she needed about where Abby is out of Nora. So I think the our final episode. I mean, you already said just go ahead and plan for it to be a cliffhanger, but it's going to be messed up.
You think it'll be a cliffhanger?
Yeah, I think so. She's not going to find Abby.
I don't know.
I think there's a little more Isaac.
You know me, I want it wrapped up.
I
I don't want to have to worry what happened, you know? What are your thoughts? What are we seeing next week?
man, okay. I think I don't know if whatever like decision Ellie has to make is going to materialize yet, but there'll be some sort of complication that can resolve. So I think there'll be a showdown. I think that there will be a battle or something. I think it'll be a very actiony episode.
You know what we haven't seen yet? We haven't met the prophet.
The scars and the wolves and like what is all this militarized thing? So I think there's going to be like a battle, and we haven't had that
Hmm.
big action sequence yet. There was the horde in the very that was episode one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
two.
two.
Yeah,
It was episode. How can you forget?
I don't know. So that was big and actiony and blockbustery. This I don't think will be on that scale, but it will be humans. I'm really scared for Dina and Jesse. I'm not super confident that Jesse survives. I'm not basing that on any inside knowledge,
I get that. I get that. I get it. Yeah.
and that's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But they haven't lost a peer yet. It's been people dying in the right order, right? Folks who are older than you.
But then to lose Jesse when Jackson Hole said no, I think will be hard.
That'll fuck them up. It'll fuck
That
Ellie up.
will.
And something's got to get in there, right? She
Yeah.
keeps having moments that are plenty enough information for her to go, actually,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
this ain't what I need to be spending my time on. And she keeps
No.
trudging forward, and Dina keeps supporting her because she loves her. And the way Dina tells it, she also wants revenge.
For you, is there a difference between vengeance and revenge?
I use them fairly interchangeably. They're just different parts of speech, I think.
Okay.
So AI says, I hate that you can't Google stuff anymore. Um, Revenge is a personal desire to harm someone who has wronged you, often driven by anger and the desire to get even. Vengeance, in some contexts, is similar to revenge, but may also imply a more deliberate and perhaps justifiable response to injustice. Again, I could see people if they say vengeance, they just mean revenge, because
Yeah.
most of us are
Yeah.
not thinking about the greater good, as we said earlier.
Right.
So, just like with Abby killing Joel, it's not going to fix her. Ellie's not gonna feel any better after she kills Abby. I don't think.
She's not.
Any other thoughts about this episode?
I was disappointed that Pedro didn't win any awards
Mm.
during award season. He has to win for this. Like the acting here, and not just Pedro, but Bella as well. The acting.
This
But I don't know. I'm also not watching other things that people are acting in. So
this genre is one of a handful that are often overlooked by awards, but surely someone will at least be nominated. And I hope that other elements of the show are recognized as well.
yeah.
Screenwriting, SFX, cinematography. It excels in just about every detail. So if if you want to sit with somebody and hold hands while we get through this final episode of the season recap, meet us back here wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube at We Interrupt This Program. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio.
Are we?
Yeah, I just googled this one day. um, and subscribe, leave us a comment, ask us a question, tell us if you have a question for Craig Mason,
Yes.
and join us next time on We Interrupt This Program.